Hey, all right. How y'all doing today? Hope y'all had a great day today. We're gonna go to Proverbs, the 25th chapter. We're gonna go to one verse, 25th chapter, and the 28th verse. Proverbs 25 and 28. And when you have it, say, I have it. And when you don't have it, say, I ain't got it yet, but hold on. Okay. It's all right. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read from the New King James Version. Yeah. Once again, Proverbs 25 and 28. Yeah. Everyone have it? Okay. Okay. Can you give me the first word that it says? Okay. Okay. Proverbs 25 and 28. From the New King James, it says, Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. A city broken down without walls. That verse is talking about something that is we've heard throughout our years. Self-control. Self-control is a key part in our obedience to God. And that is what we're going to speak about today. We're going to speak about self-control or self-discipline. Today's message is entitled, Tell Yourself No. Tell yourself no. Many of us, we have a hard time of being disciplined. Let's being honest with ourselves. And especially, this is the holiday season where we eat until we pass out. Sometimes we forfeit our health. Sometimes we forfeit our doctor's orders just to get that last piece of pie that you know you're not supposed to be eating. Okay, what about some people? I'm not saying who, but you may know some people who know their doctor have told them that they need to lower their sodium intake because their blood pressure is high. But instead, this is being the chitlin season. They got to go ahead and get some chitlin with some hog maws. And we ain't going to forget about that anointed hot sauce that they put on there to kind of savor the flavor of that stench. Many people lose their mind and put down their healthy lifestyle when it comes down to this holiday season. Now, this is the thing. This message, maybe some people, well, we need to talk about being saved. Okay, yes. True enough. We may be saved, but there is a saved lifestyle that we must obtain. And that's something that a lot of times we don't really talk about. We talk about getting to heaven. That's fine and dandy. But there are some obedience and work that we need to do down here on earth. And a lot of times, because, not saying you're not saved, but sometimes because of we mismanaging our health, we mismanaging what we're supposed to be doing, we end up causing ourselves to make ourselves into an early grave. And so we're not just talking about, as far as physical eating, overeating, or whatever, but we talking about every aspect of your life. If you really look at it, you think about it, a lot of times we let ourselves go in a lot of areas in our life. And so when we look at it, what we have to do, we have to ask ourselves, just as disciplined as we are to our children, can we get ourselves disciplined towards ourselves. We easily tell other people no. But have we told ourselves no in some things that we know we don't need to be involving ourselves into? Being honest. One of the things I was looking at, a lot of times we'll easily go ahead and, because, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll work out tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes. Sometimes, if I can be honest and transparent, sometimes we'll easily say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go over to this girl house, or for the ladies, I'm gonna go over to this guy house, but we ain't gonna do nothing. We just gonna talk, and one thing led to another. Months later, you end up regretting you going over there that night. That doesn't mean that you ain't saved, but you have lost some control in your life. And so what we have to do as believers, we have to recognize that we have some shortcomings that we need to operate in and acknowledge, you know what, I'm weak in that area. We actually need to start disciplining ourselves. And see, what I found that a lot of times as believers, we'll easily say, you know what, God gonna help me, or God gonna do this, God gonna do that. And we blame everything on God. Sometimes we even blame the devil. And God is saying, no, I'm not going to do it for you. I have given you the ability to do it. I have given you the will. And guess what? He has also given us the desire. But it's up to us. God will never make us, especially against our will. And get this, even the devil does not make us do anything. The devil will only present. But even though he may, and God will not put anything in your hand, it's you, whichever one that you may be focused on or may desire, that's what you're going to go after. And that's one of the things that we have to really, like I said, just be honest with ourselves. We're out of control, just point blank. But God wants us to get back, not just in right standing with him, but even right standing within ourselves. Because we are shortchanging the blessing that God has before us. God has everything pertaining to life and godliness. And he has provided everything to life and godliness. But what do? We choose the latter. What I found out is a lot of times we'll choose a temporary relief, a temporary pleasure, but we omit the permanent pain that it causes. Whenever you get ready to do something, you always have to count up the cost, because there are always benefits in obedience, benefits in doing the right thing, but there are consequences in doing the wrong thing. So that's one thing we have to talk about, because a lot of times, like I said, we'll easily say, well, the Holy Ghost is going to do it. The Holy Ghost will empower you if you want him to. The Holy Ghost will give you the strength and the ability if you choose him to. But what do we do a lot of times? Even though God may be telling us what to do, God has provided us the strength and even the knowledge on what to do. But the final decision is not God's. The final decision is yours. It's mine. So if we choose to disobey, that's not on him, that's on us. But even in the midst of our disobedience, what happens? We have to deal with the consequences. And sometimes the consequences are much greater than what we calculated in the beginning. So God does not want us to fail or keep bumping our heads anymore. One of the things my dad have always said, he said, a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from somebody else's mistakes. So God wants us to start not just learning from our mistake, but start learning from other people's mistake, so we can go ahead and receive the purpose and plan that he has for us. One of the things I found out in, me being up there in the jail for a while, I noticed that a lot of inmates, the longer they stay in jail, the more, not so much of them having jailhouse religion, But what I found out, a lot of times they're looking for something that we don't offer. Discipline. Discipline. And that's why a lot of them, they may have came in sometime unsaved or sometime as a Christian. But a lot of times, the longer they're there, they leave out what? A Muslim. They leave out a Muslim. Why? Not because of the doctrine, but because of the discipline. We as believers, we can speak the truth, but when people look at our life, we're not representing Christ in the way that He actually wants us to, because we're living a undisciplined life. Just being honest. That this is not to pinpoint one person. In some areas, it addresses all of us. Each and every one of us, when we look at it, somewhere you might have told people at church, at work, hey, want to invite you to our church. We might have this program, or we might do this, we might do that. But you, the same one that always get to work late. Or you're the same one, every time people find out that there's some mess, your name is always in the center. You may be the one where, somebody found out that you mess with somebody else's husband. These are some of the things that people are looking at us, like the Sunday school lesson we talked about some weeks ago. What do people think about believers? And if you pinpoint it, a lot of times we are misrepresented because we do not have self-control in some areas. It is so, let's be honest, a lot of times when we hear about a gossip, it's really, sometimes that curiosity want to make you think, what did they say? You want to know. Now, you may not be the one to spread it, but because you're there listening, what happened? Now people are going to associate you with the one that's spreading exactly what you just listened to. That old saying, what? Guilty by association? Well, sometimes, even if I wasn't the one that said it, I can walk in, and if I walk in and stay there, then people, oh yeah, Brother June heard it. Yeah, Brother June. Now they done put my name in the mix. Not because I was there, but because I refused to leave. So the thing is, in every area, what we have to do, we have to see if this is something that God would be pleased with or not. Like I said, Proverbs 25 and 28 is saying about obedience. If you want to start working on more discipline in your life, the first thing you have to realize is God know more than you. That may sound simple, but a lot of time when it come down to the areas in our life where we have stumbling or made some mistakes, the first thing, if you really pinpoint it, a lot of time we have bypassed the red flags that God's given us because we think that we know more than God. Sometimes we feel like we know better than God. Sometimes we feel like, well, God, He don't understand what's going on. He don't understand my needs. So what happened? We end up making a decision and then we end up regretting it. Not only God has our best interests at heart, but also God knows the specific spirit or the origin of what's going on that we asking Him for, or what we may be looking into. Okay, I might be wanting a job, and this particular job, I say, you know what? It's quick money. I can go ahead and do it, but God may be telling me, no, don't go there. Well, it's all right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go in. And one thing led to another. What happened? They end up robbing that place. And God had already told me don't go off in there. But because, it's no harm. I'm just going to go in and go out. Me going to this store. And God told me not to go off in there. But I said, I'm just going to go in there. I walk in there. And I'm getting robbed. Well, God did give me that, that gut feeling. He told me not to go off in there. But because my intentions were, I'm just going to go in there for a quick second. I'm not going to be in there long. I allowed myself to be in the area that God did not authorize me for me to be in. So what we have to do is start obeying God and start learning the voice of God. And when we begin to start learning and obeying the voice of God, every time you obey God, it strengthens you, or it gives you the courage. So when the opportunity comes the next time, you'll be able to recognize his voice even more. But a lot of times, if we don't obey God in that area, what happened? We end up dealing with some situations that was not called for us to deal with. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us, "For God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of sound mind," which is the same thing as what? Self-discipline. One thing we have to realize, God deals with our spirit. And in God dealing with our spirit, God will talk to us because God is spirit. Now, God will speak to us in our spirit, but the devil will speak to you too. God will speak to you within your spirit, but the devil will speak to you through your what? Through your soul, your emotions, your thoughts. Now, I know in the Bible, the word soul is written several times, and part of it is speaking about your thoughts or your emotions, and then the other part is speaking about the whole you, the whole body. So we're not going to speak about the whole body on that part. When I'm speaking about soul, I'm speaking about the way you think and the way you feel, your emotions. The devil going to always deal with you in your emotions or the way you think. Because what's going to happen, if God telling you to go somewhere, the devil going to try to bring up something in the past in your mind to make you question if you should do what God told you to or not. He may bring up a past experience. He may bring up a hurtful experience. Well, the last time you spoke to that person cussed you out. Or the last time you went off in there, this happened, that happened. But this gut feeling or God's spirit is telling you to go. Or go to that person. Or listen to that person. Or help that person. But you think about the last time I helped that person, that was unappreciative. The last time I helped that person, they didn't even say thank you. So these are the things we have to think about. God is telling you what to do, and the devil is suggesting you what to do. God is telling you what to do, and the devil is suggesting you what to do. Or he's making you feel that you shouldn't do it. And then there's a conflict. Now you're torn. What you should do, what you should not do. Well, I ain't going to deal with them no way because, like I said, they unappreciative. I don't like them no way. And then what happened? We end up regretting it. We end up, because we didn't do it, it make us lose some sleepless nights. You start, man, it's on your mind all night. It's on your mind. Why? Because God was telling you, you need to do this. But because of past experience that the devil brought back, you didn't do it. You yield to what the devil is bringing up to you instead of doing what God told you to do. The other thing we need to think about, Proverbs 15, 31 and 32. And also, just in case I'm speaking too fast, I'm on the chapters, I'm going to go ahead and post it up for y'all. So just in case you don't have time to write it, then I'll send it to you anyway. But Proverbs 15, 31 and 32, it says, "The ear that hears the rebuke of life will abide amongst the wise. He who disdains instructions disdain his own soul. But he who heed rebuke get understanding." What we have to do is not only but us becoming more disciplined. What we have to do, we have to center ourselves around people who are disciplined as well. One of the things I found out, successful people hang around each other. Successful people or wealthy people, they converse, they fellowship. They say money talks money. But what happened a lot of times when we are undisciplined, sometimes we center ourselves around undisciplined people. And what happened? We are staying in the same rut as them because we don't have anybody to challenge us. But what I found out, if you look at like some of the athletes, let's say like Michael Jordan or LeBron James, you see them, they may be great basketball players, but don't you know it took discipline in order for them to get to the level that they're at. So when you look at the basketball game, you're seeing not just their gifts, but you're seeing the results of their discipline. See, your discipline will have some type of results that other people will see. If I want to lose weight, many of us, especially during this time, especially this coming January, many of us, we're going to always say, I need to lose some weight. Many of us, we have an idea. Some of us may even make up New Year's resolutions. We talk about how we need to lose some weight. We'll bring up how much weight we want to lose. We'll talk about how much weight we want to lose, but we won't push back our plate and we won't go exercise. So how are we going to lose some weight? We think about the end results, but we won't go through the journey or the steps to get to that destination. I found that, I'm gonna tell you this. Well, I'm gonna go back. What we have to do when it comes down for us being able to be disciplined, we have to start looking at some key things that will help us be disciplined. I'm not gonna say it in order, but the first thing, what we have to do, we have to learn and obey the voice of God, which I mentioned earlier. Obedience. Obedience to God will help us to obtain self-control. Learning the voice of God and trusting the voice of God, knowing that whenever God tells you to do something, it's for your best interest. God knows you need to lose some weight. God knows you need to work on your homework assignment. God knows you need to go ahead and, instead of talking to the people at work, you need to do some work. You may be talking to some people who may be trying to distract you from your job. So you need to go ahead and move away from them people, because if you notice, when you get your mind to get ready to do something, there's always somebody that comes that end up distracting you. And when you think about it, it may sound entertaining in the beginning, but when you think about it at the end, you don't waste your time with them. They ain't talking about nothing. They ain't doing nothing except for coming to distract you. So listening to the voice of God and recognizing when God is telling you to move, don't wait until he tell you a second time. Do it the first time. Now, knowing the voice of God or learning the voice of God, the second thing is seeing. We talked about the sight. We talked about the hearing the voice of God. Now we move into the sight. We need to learn or identify the fingerprints of God. See, when I say learning or identifying the fingerprints of God, that means you seize every opportunity when God has told you to do something. Now, bring up my situation, and y'all know I don't mind me throwing myself under the bus. Since I've been through this corona experience, I picked up some weight. So I said, I'm definitely going to have to lose some weight. And so the day after I said that, and I'm just speaking out, speaking into the atmosphere. I spoke into the atmosphere. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to lose some weight. I got off work. The next morning I went to work, and those inmates that I had with me, they all were in quarantine. So that meant that work that I was having them to do, now I got to do it. And I'm like, man. But it hit me. God told me I had just said the day before, I need to lose some weight. And so now there's an opportunity where I didn't go to the gym. I didn't want to go to the gym because of the pandemic. But God strategically set the opportunity for me to work out at work by me doing my job. You see? So in other words, that could have been an opportunity where I could have been frustrated. I need some help. I ain't got no inmate. No, but God said, no. I set this up for you. You're not working out in the gym, but you're working out on the clock. So just do your job and work out. And not only you getting paid, but you're losing weight too. So in other words, being able to seize or recognize when God has opened up an opportunity, take advantage of it. In other words, many of us, we complain when God is setting up the opportunity for us to get what we want. I didn't just say get what we need, but get what we want. So after I did all that, they just came back to work, I think sometime last week. And they stayed at work for 4 days, and then they got back on quarantine. So now I'm doing the work again. So I guess there's some more weight I need to lose. So the key thing is being able to seize the opportunity when God bring it up. In other words, whenever something going on, don't be so quick to complain or get frustrated. You pray about it and see, is God setting this up? It may be, it may be an opportunity for you to witness. It may be something, because what I found out, a lot of times, the best time to really witness to other people as a believer, the best time is through crisis, through situations, through conflict. Because when everything's going well, then everybody is praised, everybody is happy. But when tough time comes, then when those who may be weak or those who may not even be believers, they're frustrated, they're hopeless. But because of we have someone that we serve that has our best interest at heart, that's always there with us, that's an opportunity for us to witness. While everybody else is sad, oh, we rejoicing. Why? Because even though we might be affected by it, but on the other hand, we're not affected by it. Because our source is God. Our resource is our job. Our job is not our source. Our job is our resource. As long as we are obeying and trusting in the source, we'll never be without resources. So when it comes down to us as believers, we have to understand each time when things may be going on, God may have strategically set you up for you to be able to witness to others in this situation. You know, I wasn't there, but just imagine when Daniel was in the lion's den. He might have been just having a conversation with the lions. Because if you think about it, at one point, he was taking care of them, right? So if he was taking care of them and the enemy was throwing him in for him to be eaten up, he was just taking care of the one that he was with someone he was already taking care of, those animals, and he wasn't eaten up. So in the situation that you're in, you might be set up for you to be able to minister to, just like the lion. Minister to that situation or minister within that situation, but you're not there for your demise. You're there for purpose. So there's always a purpose or an agenda when God has set you up for an opportunity as a believer. So like I said, understanding the voice and then understanding the opportunity that God brings up. Now the other thing I want to bring up is, in becoming disciplined, we have to be accountable for our actions, and we have to be accountable even for our mistakes. In other words, we have to own up to it. We have to be accountable, because ultimately, as believer, we have to be more disciplined. In other words, like I said, learning to tell yourself no. Knowing your boundaries. We as believers, we must establish boundaries, not just for others, but even for ourselves. Throw myself under the bus again. There are times that you have the right to do things, but just because you have the right to do things does not mean that you take advantage of it. Right now, I'm over 18. But when I was younger, when I was under 18, you know what I wanted? I wanted to get my ear pierced. I wanted an earring. I wanted an earring in my ear. So what I did, I got a fake earring and I put it on my ear. And I walked around, and then my mama found out. But I told her that it was just a fake earring. So, it was a magnet. I took it out. So she got over. She said, okay, no big deal. But then a couple of days later, when I found that she didn't have a problem with the magnet earring, what I did, I went to Redbird Mall and I got my ear pierced to put a real earring in my ear. And then I had my ear pierced for about 2.5 hours. When she found out that there was a real earring, she made me take it out of my ear. But she said I was too young to get an earring. Well, now I'm of age to get an earring. I can get an earring if I want to. But just because I have the right or I have the opportunity to, I realize I don't need no earring. I don't want no earring. Why? Because I understand that there are consequences, even me as a man having an earring in my ear. I understand the consequence. I understand the meaning behind it. Every time we're about to do something, like I said, we have to count up the cost. We have to look at, would this be a benefit or a consequence? Would this represent Christ or would it represent myself? And anything as a believer, if we're not representing Christ, then we're actually representing ourselves. So now I have every right to get the earring, but I don't need no earring and I don't want no earring. I have no desire for it. And so there was an example of being, having an earring, but you have to look at, there may be people who may want to do something. To them, it may not even be a problem, but you have to think about the long term. Would it influence somebody else and make them do something that they're not supposed to be doing? Us as believers, not only we representing Christ, but we are an influence to other people. Just like how we're drawn to see people gift or their discipline, don't you know that you are a magnet for people or to people? So like I said, everything that you're about to do, or even everything that you're about to say, you have to think about, will it be something that will show discipline or self-control or lack of self-control? Just imagine right now, if I said something and I end up cursing. Well, right now, if I did that, then people are going to be like, oh man, I'm surprised he said that. Well, a lot of people are going to be surprised because I have now showed that I have no self-control. And even pertaining to profanity, there are some people who use profanity because they don't have any self-control and they have a lack of very or limited vocabulary. So they don't know how to express themselves to really convey to the person that's listening to them how they feel. So they just, blank. No. But there are other words that you can say, but because of their limited vocabulary, they're saying what they know or what they're familiar with or what they're accustomed to. So the other thing in you being disciplined, like I said, you have to center yourself around disciplined people. You have to center yourself around other people who may be strong, but also who will hold you accountable in that area. Now, right now, I'm going to tell you my weakness. My weakness, I love cashews. I love cashews. I love cashews. I love cashews. I have a weakness for cashews. If somebody give me a bucket of cashews, I would eat it right there. Matter of fact, my stepmother gave me some cashews to when I was going to Houston, and it was just for me to snack on. Well, I ate it from the time I left Dallas all the way till I made it to Houston, and I finished it. Now I made myself sick, but I know I lack control when it comes down to cashews. Now I have gotten better when it came down to pecan pie. I've gotten better. Instead of eating pecan pie, I eat cereal that has pecans in it. So I've gotten better with my pecans, but maybe if they come up with some cashew cereal, then I'll do better with that. So, so we have to be able to be accountable for our actions, and like I said, be around people that will hold us accountable. You know, in you having an accountability partner, have somebody that's gonna stick to their guns. You don't get somebody that you like that's gonna give in. You have to have somebody that's gonna say, no, you said this, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stick to it. That's the reason why there are some, not savings account, but there are some people who may get their retirement or whatever, who may be investing into something. A lot of times they have a high penalty to influence you not to get into it. Because if there was no penalty, a lot of times we would easily go in, and instead of us saving, we end up taking. So there has to be some measure of consequences when we trying to do something, because if it's so easy for us to get, that'll be our first source to go to. When you're supposed to be saving, instead of you saving, you end up spending. That's the reason why they say, if it's something that you're really trying to get, don't get it that day, get it the next day. That's going to determine if that's something that you really need or if that's something you just want. So us having more discipline, even in saving, and also even in what we say. So many times we say things and we're undisciplined. There are some people where I just speak my mind. I say whatever I want. No, there are consequences in what you say. There are consequences in what you do, regardless of who you are. You know, matter of fact, if we say something, I'm not going to say the specific thing, but if we say something out of line about a particular person or people who may be an elected official, don't you know, before the night is over with, Secret Service may be coming to your doorstep. Why? Because you have to guard your mouth. Some of us will say anything, and I'm just speaking my mind. And there are some people that say this, and I don't get happy when people say that. I watch them. When somebody say, well, the Lord told me to tell you this. And a lot of times, this just a little sidebar right here. When people say that, you have to watch who's saying it and listen, and not only watch who's saying it, but watch what they're saying after that. Because a lot of time God didn't say that. A lot of time they saying it because they know if they say the Lord told them to tell you, then they know that you're going to listen and receive. And a lot of time it ain't from God, it's from them. But the Lord told me to tell you this and blah 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 blah. No, it ain't God, it's them. It ain't God talking, it's them talking. Because a lot of time when they say stuff like that, what happens? They saying stuff because they got something that they want. They got something they trying to get something out of the deal, or they trying to be some type of influence over you. So that's something for us to be mindful of. As we get ready to wrap it up, like I said, must be accountable for our actions and our own mistakes. Also, understand that we have to be disciplined and not be impulsive. We cannot be impulsive. In other words, just going by how you feel. Just going by how you feel. The worst thing that, especially a lot of the young people, they have this saying, well, I just do it, and it's like whenever they do something, they don't plan ahead. They just, whenever something happens, I just gotta do what I gotta do. But you're not planning. You're not strategizing. You have to be responsible and plan. A lot of times when people are impulsive, they are very dangerous because they'll do any and everything for a temporary relief. They'll do any and everything. Why? Because they're only thinking about the right now. They're not thinking about what's ahead. They will take from this person and they'll try to worry about tomorrow. So when you deal with people like that, if you know people like that within your circle, stay away from them. Why? Because to be honest with you, what happened a lot of times, they may even bring you down. So when it comes down to people that are like that, we have to make sure, hey, look here, you do what you're supposed to. Now, of course, sometimes there are some things may happen where they may be out of our control. But when it comes down to it, even though those things that may be coming that may be out of our control, no matter what, God always have us to be able to be resourceful for us to be able to at least know how to maneuver from point A to point B. It's just like Michael Jordan hurt his right hand. Well, even though he may have his right hand hurt, he know how to play with the other hand too. But when someone who's only know one way, then those are the kind that never plan ahead for a rainy day. So we have to make sure for those who may be impulsive, make sure if you're one of those, start by, number one, trusting God and not relying upon your feelings or your emotions making decisions. When people make decisions based upon their feelings or their emotions, they end up doing things that they regret. Or sometimes they'll do anything by any means necessary. So I forgot the phrase that a lot of people say, I just gotta do what I gotta do. Okay, but you wasn't planning. You didn't plan ahead. So that, and also one of the things we have to realize is consulting God in every area of your life. The Bible tells us if you acknowledge him in all your ways, he shall direct thy path, or he shall make thy pathway straight. So in order for us to become more disciplined, we have to start consulting God in every area of our life. And understanding that, like I said, God has our best interests at heart. God knows more than we do. And for us to be able to recognize, not just before situations occur, but even in the midst of a mistake, we own up to our mistake. And we consulting God and let him know, hey, look at God, I made a mistake. God, I'm sorry. I need to do this. I need to do that. We come to terms that we messed up. And that's something I think a lot of time people are afraid to own up to their mistakes. People are afraid to acknowledge that they're wrong. And not understanding, if you acknowledge you are wrong, that's also going to help you to stay right. If you can acknowledge, you know what? When a person is in denial, they can't be helped. Because all they're going to see is the mistake of others and be blind to their own mistakes. So God wants us to be able to seek him and consult him in every area first. And not only in consulting him, but also in, like I said, in acknowledge or even in praying, but also we wait for his response. We have to be able to wait. It's just like if I'm calling God knowing that he's on the other end, get ready to answer my call. it would not make any sense for me to hang up the phone if I know he's at home. If I'm calling Brother Land, I know he's at home. He told me to call him. Well, if I call him, it may be the third or fourth ring, but because of my impatience, I'm gonna hang up after the second ring. We have to be able to start waiting on God, because if you notice, every time we become impatient and don't wait on God, and we do what we want to do, we end up having to do it over again anyway. You know, that old saying I heard and it stuck into my head. You don't have time to do it right, but you have time to do it again. So in order for us to be able to start acknowledging God, when we start acknowledging God and consulting Him and waiting for His response, then that puts Him at the responsibility of making sure that everything is executed right. But if we take matters into our own hands, then it makes us responsible to make sure that things are done and done right. Also, having to put everything pertaining to your life and godliness in His hands. Like I said earlier, God has given us everything pertaining to life and godliness. And also, He already said in His word, greater is He that's in us is He that's in the world. So no matter what we may face, God has already given us victory before we get in it. And also, like I said earlier, that we are fit for this situation. No matter what occurs, God had already assured us victory if we do it His way. But even though we may be going through a path that God has set aside for us, if we don't do it His way, we still gonna fail, even if He planned the battle for us. We have to go through things His way and do it His way, His method, using His tool and His words, and then we'll be successful. But if we try to put our own 2 cents in, then that's when we get up in trouble. So, and also realizing that God wants us to prosper in every area of our lives. 3 John 1 and 2 says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prosper." Every area of your life lined up with God's word, every area of your life, He wants you blessed. He's not just concerned about your eternal life, but also your temporary life right here on earth. One of the things we have to realize, God has given us not only the roadmap to heaven, but also how to deal with earth issues right here. But we have to use His method. We have to do things His way. And I know sometimes we want to take matters to our own hands. And like I said, I'm learning. I found out sometimes when you're used to being nice to people, sometimes people try to take your kindness for weakness. And that's something, I don't mind being transparent. That's one of the things I'm working on. Sometimes I may have to raise my voice a little louder to get my point across. And I'm like, did I have to go there? But even in the midst of me learning, okay, God, you let them deal with that. God, I'm gonna let you deal with that. God, look here, I need your area. I need your help in this area, because there are some people, I ain't gonna say I hate people. I love everybody. I love everybody. We all love people. But there are some people you just tolerate. There are some people that will test your last anointed nerve. There are some people you just shake your head. You don't say anything, but you just shake your head. What in the world were they thinking? So that's one of the areas that I'm working on. I'm working on not shaking my head and not giving that sigh. Sometimes I give a side eye. So I'm asking God to deliver my eyes sometimes. So sometimes y'all see me with some dark shades. I don't have a black eye. Sometimes I'm just trying to ask God to help me control my eyes, because I may give you a look. I'm like, I may scare people with my look. So don't be offended when y'all see me with some shades. But last but not least, like I said, being able to give everything to God, and also being able to prioritize. We have to prioritize and look at what's important. There are some things, if we want to become more disciplined, if we want to become more self-controlled in whatever we may be doing or maybe getting ready to do, we have to prioritize. There are some things that we may be doing that is really not important at that time. But then there are other things that are important that we're not doing. So we have to prioritize and make sure that if we tell somebody we're going to do something, let's be a man and lady of our word. Be people of integrity. That's one of the things that people oftentimes, they look at us as believers and they feel that we are not true to our word. We don't have good ethics or good morals. And those are the things we have to look at as believers. We have to be more ethical in our speech or in our doing, whatever we do, whatever we say. Being able to represent Christ the way that he wants us to. And that dirty devil. My verse is not coming up. Okay, here it is. Hebrews 12:11. It says, now no chastening means to be cheerful for the present, but painful. Nevertheless, afterwards it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Also, Titus 2:11 and 12. I'm going to read from another translation. It says, for the grace of God has appeared with salvation for all people, instructing us to deny godlessness and worldly lust, and to live in a simple, righteous, and godly way in the present age. Also, 14 verse, it says, he gave himself to us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to cleanse for himself a people for his own possession, eager to do good work. And last but not least, Proverbs 15:31 and 32. It says, the ear that hears the rebuke of life will abide amongst the wise. He who disdains instruction despises his own soul. But he who heeds rebuke gets understanding. We have to remember, when we obey God, it helps us to become wiser. It helps us in, like I say, when you obey God, he can entrust in you what he want to give you. When you obey God, it develops a deeper trust or an intimate trust with him. But when we disobey God, what happened? It put a barrier between us. And when we obey God, we actually please, if we really think about it, we please God when we obey him. But what happened when we disobey him? That's something for us to think about. Because if you look at it, I don't care how long we've been working or how long we've been living, how long we've been doing something. God always knows more than us. And so that's something we have to recognize. God knows more than us. We don't know more than God. But God will always forewarn us about things, but we have to heed his instructions. We have to heed his voice in order for us to avoid the consequence or avoid the booby traps that the devil may try to put forth. You know, just as God has placed things in our possession or accessible to us, the devil have always had a counterfeit. The devil will have a counterfeit for you to lure you from what God has for you. It could be any and everything. It could be someone, it could be a potential boyfriend or girlfriend. It could be a way to make money or whatever. You know, I found out a lot of times, especially I found out earlier this year, there were people who were now being arrested because they were, it was some type of relief. I guess it was unemployment relief that the president okayed. Well, there were some people that were trying to do some illegal things. Well, guess what? They being caught. You know, now they may felt like, well, I need that money, but anytime you're gonna try to do something illegal, remember you're gonna always be caught. You know, and so anytime you may be in need of something, always make sure that you don't be desperate. Don't make yourself desperate, because when you try to make yourself desperate, that's when the devil going to try to lure something to bring you back to something you may end up regretting. You know, quick money. Quick money produces quick consequences, quick penalties, quick things. And even though God could do any and everything, but one thing that we have to do, we have to start trusting him. And if God told us to wait, then he have us to wait for a reason. So with that being said, I hope that from this point on that we can be able to start examining ourselves. And if there are some areas in our life that we're undisciplined in, or some areas that we need some more control in, I tell people, hey, look here, there's nothing wrong with you asking for help. There's nothing wrong with you saying, you know what, I need some help in this area. And that doesn't mean that you ain't saved. That doesn't mean that you're a weak person. It actually means that you're a mature person. There are some people who may have an issue with smoking. And so what happened, because they have the cigarettes that they're easily accessible to, what happened? When they start getting stressed, or when they get done eating, they're going to start doing this. And then when they start getting stressed, they're going to start smoking. But even that person right there, if they end up, hey, you know what, Brother Landy, look here, I'm going to give you my cigarettes. I need to stop smoking. You know, yeah, I know I go to church. I'm one of the members of the church. But hey, look here, I'm trying to get some help. But you know what? He is going to respect me even more because I'm asking for help. And you know what? The key thing for us to do is realize there may be things that we may not recover from overnight, but we have to take one day or one step at a time. One of the things I always say, there's an old, I think it's a Oriental proverb that says, how does an ant eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Take one day at a time. Take one step at a time. And once you begin to start implementing that, don't stop. So many people, they give up because, well, you know, I only quit smoking 3 days ago. But how am I going to stop smoking for the rest of my life? Nope. Take one day or one step at a time. And this is me. We're gonna get ready to wrap it up after this. I'm going to throw myself under the bus again. But I had a coping mechanism whenever I was stressed, or whenever I was kind of, if you want to say, in my feelings. This is what I would do. I would go to Wendy's and I would get me a Caesar size salad. Now there are some people, they might binge and get cookies and snacks and all this stuff. But my thing was, I knew that I had to get something healthy. I didn't want to start making myself pick up a bad habit by getting something, you know, junk food or whatever. So I said, well, you know what? Like when I would drop off Dylan, at his mom's house when we first had our divorce, I was hurt. So I would go to Wendy's and I'd get my salad and I'd just eat it. I would just eat it. It became a routine. But if you look at it, which will be worse? Eating that cake and the ice cream or eating a salad? The salad was no problem. So the thing is, whenever you find yourself getting ready to fall, make sure you fall on the cushion. Make sure you fall on something that you know that's not going to put you in harm's way. If you want to quit smoking, get rid of all the cigarettes and put a pen or a pencil in your pocket. Because you're going to have a habit of what? Slapping your chest where that pocket be at where you keep the cigarettes. So if you slap your pocket, you're going to pull out a pencil. Just start writing. These are just little, look here, this ain't biblical. It's just something that I just started doing and it became helpful, you know. So these are some of the things we have to look at because the devil wants us to start picking up bad habits and realize that one bad habit breeds another bad habit. But instead of picking up a bad habit, what do? If you upset, if you're talking to yourself, that ain't bad. So now, since you're talking to yourself, how about you start quoting some scriptures to yourself? You know, instead of talking under your breath and talking about them. Hey, look here, God. You said you gonna take care of all my problems. That person drive me crazy, so I'm gonna trust you and blah blah blah. Hey, talk to God. Instead of talking to them, talk to God. If you're gonna talk to yourself quoting God's scripture, quoting God's word, quoting God's language. And let that soothe you because to be honest with you, when I found out the more words we say to ourselves, the angrier we get. So how about we soothe ourselves, soothe our soul by trusting God and relying upon Him and have Him to help us to become more disciplined. Now we turn into the hands of Pastor Logan.